Now, I know I'm a little late talking about this archetype, but Doremichord is one of those archetypes that I see little potential in because of what they do. Now, with all the cards, they have the effects of in the Pendulum Zone, your Doremichord Pendulum monsters, Pendulum Summon can't be negated. So, this is shared on all of them, and if you look at the progression of the attack and defense stat, once you go from the little ones, the attack goes up by 500, then the defense goes up by 1,000 and another 500, then 200, then 200, and another 1,000, then another 200 and 100. But overall, this archetype is, for me, not really that interesting. Their typings are fire, water, and wind, and earth. They don't have any light or darks in the deck, so you could essentially run the Charmers in here, everything but the new Lina, the Light Charmer Link monster. But that's one of the things that I could say safely. Some of the cards in this deck are actually very good and can be utilized super well. Like this one adds one of the monsters from your deck, and also some of them share this effect if you have an even numbered pendulum scale in your pendulum zone. Archetype pendulum monsters you control gain 1,000 times their own pendulum scale. Then you have stuff like Dreamy, which is if you have a Doremichord card in your pendulum zone, you can special summon this card from your hand. So essentially you would normal summon this, search this, activate another, and summon this. So it's a 2 card to get 2 monsters out for an Electrumite. So this is one of the reasons why I think it's lackluster right now, because Electrumite isn't even legal at all. And this one says, oh, if you have an odd number pendulum scale in your pendulum zone, cannot be destroyed by battle with card effects, you could destroy one of that card instead. So it's a substitution. So if they would be destroyed, you could destroy one of your scales, which I don't see the need in it. I only see the need of special summoning from your hand. Then we have Elita, which is it is a Kieran for background of your opponents, and this says you take no battle damage. This is actually useful depending if you're going up against certain decks. Then you have Fancia. During your main phase, you could take one Doremichord Pendulum monster from your deck, accept this, and place it face up in the extra deck. So it's like an Electrumite, but you can't get it back with her effect, so they didn't want to hard copy it like Electrumite. And if you have an odd number pendulum scale and a Doremichord pendulum monster you control would be destroyed by battle, you could destroy this card instead. It's another substitution effect upon the substitution effect that they have. So this one I could see being more useful than this one, but they're both there because they're needed. Then we have Gracia. If this card is normal or special, you can add one spell or trap card of the archetype to your hand, and there's 2 spells, 2 traps so far. And then quick effect. Actually no. This one. Yes. No. This one. If you have an even number pendulum scale in your pendulum zone, and your Doremichord pendulum monster attacks, your opponent cannot activate monster effects. That's fine. It stops things like Utopia, the Utopia Lightning, I believe. It just stops battle effects, and I think that's what Konami's trying to push towards, is battle effects. But we will see about that. Then we have Angela. During your main phase, you contribute one Doremichord Pendulum Monster, special summon one Doremichord Pendulum Monster with the pendulum scale that is 2 or higher, or 2 or lower than attributed monster, except another copy of itself. So if you tribute off a level if you tribute off a different one of her, you could summon out your Kulia, or you could summon out your level 4. Most likely, you want to tribute off a level 3 to summon out your Kulia, because that adds, then you can add the Dreama. So there are combo potentials, and if you have an odd number, and your pendulum, and if your Doremichord pendulum monster attacks, your opponent can activate spells or traps. So we have one that prevents monster effects during damage step, and spell and trap card effects until the end of the damage step. Now we have Butia. She is the quick play, and you can target one effect monster your opponent controls during that turn. If it would leave the field, banish it. If you have an even-numbered pendulum scale in your pendulum zone, you can target one face-up spell and trap card your opponent controls instead. I would rather do the monster removal because that is more prominent. And once per turn at the start of the damage step, when this card battles a monster with an attack that is equal to or lower than the highest, equal to or higher than the lowest pendulum scale in your pendulum zone, times 300, you can destroy that monster. So, if it's higher than the monster's attack in the pendulum zone, you take the pendulum scale times 300. So if you have a scale of 1, it's 300 attack, so you're pretty much destroying everything. This card's good, and you can also run Archler Charistia because they're all fairies. Then you have Kulia. She is the boss monster, and you can special summon this card from your hand by tributing 2 pendulum monsters. Super generic, you can run this in Pendulum Magician. Or Endymion. You can target one face-up card your opponent controls and negate the effects until the end of your opponent's turn. That's good. If you have odd number pendulum scale in your pendulum zone, you can target 2 cards instead. That is super easy to do because of this deck, because you have 4 odds and 4 even scales. Pretty good. And it doesn't say if it has to be a Doremichord monster or not. It just says, oh, you just can have an odd number pendulum scale. And the third effect, when the effect of a monster on the field with less attack or equal to the highest pendulum scale in your pendulum zone is activated, destroy that monster. So it doesn't negate, but it destroys the monster. The effect still goes through, but most likely you're going to have an 8 in the scale. So that's 2400. And if they have more than 2400, it can't do anything. Well, because it's like, oh, it needs less or equal to the 2400. Now we have the scales. So you can apply one of these in sequence according to the Doremichord pendulum monsters you could control with different names. 3 or more, return 1 card from your pendulum zone to your hand, and if you do, place 1 Doremichord pendulum monster from your face-up extra deck to your pendulum zone. This is a good trade-off, because if you pendulum summon 3, you can activate this, get 1 back, and then place a new one there and special summon the one, because most likely, I'm going to bet you, this is the one that you're going to be returning to hand if you place it in the scale, because this scale is 7. Or the level 1. 5 or more, special summon 1 Doremichord pendulum monster from your hand. It should be... I wish it would summon from deck. I wish it could summon from deck. That is my thing about it. And 7 or more, destroy all face-up cards your opponent controls. Again, it should be destroy all cards your opponent controls. But that could be a little powerful, but look in the format that we are in. It is a control format with a lot of back row and quite a bit of monsters on the field depending on the deck. And a lot of the time, you need multiple destructions to get rid of everything. This deck dies to anti-spell pretty fast. So you need that, I would say, that back row destruction, that, like Typhoon, if you want to live a turn. Then we have Harmonia. Select and activate one of these effects. You can only select these effects once per turn each. It is their field spell. Add 1 Doremichord pendulum monster from your face-up extra deck to your hand. Have 1 Doremichord card in your pendulum zone gain pendulum scale equal to its level until the end of this turn. If you control 3 or more Doremichord Pendulum Monsters cards with different names that have odd number pendulum scales, or that have even number pendulum scales, destroy 1 card your opponent controls. Overall, this is like the other half of Electrumite, returning it back to your hand, and Doremichord kind of needed that to recycle, but with Electrumite it would help definitely more. Now the second effect is pretty good, because if you have a scale of 8, you can make it a scale of 9. If you have a scale of, no matter what, you're making something a scale of 9. So even if you open up 2 low scales in this, you can get out a pendulum summon, and no matter what, it is going to be a scale of 9. One of them is going to be 9, one of them is going to be the low one. Now we're on to the traps. Excuse me. We have Musica. It is a trap with 3 effects. Select one of these based on the scales of the pendulum monster cards you control that are in the pendulum scales. Odd number, special summon 1 Doremichord pendulum monster with an odd number from your pendulum. So I need to reread this, sorry. Special summon 1 Doremichord pendulum monster with an odd numbered pendulum scale from your face-up extra deck. Or if you even, you special summon 1 that has a even number from your face-up extra deck. Or if you have both odd and even, target 1 card your opponent controls, destroy it. It should be just special summon any Doremichord pendulum monster. Like, really, Konami? You have one that special summons odds, one that special summons evens. Why not have one that special summons both? That would have been way better than just, oh, destroy a card. And it's also targeting removal. This card could be definitely better with this third effect, but these 2 effects right here, those aren't good. Now we have Formal, which is, you can only fit 1 of these per turn. Now, for Formal, it is their counter trap. When your opponent activates a monster, effect, spell, or trap, and you control a Doremichord card in your pendulum zone, shuffle 1 pendulum monster from your face-up extra deck into the deck. Then apply these effects. Pendulum monsters you control are unaffected by that opponent's effect. Cards in your pendulum zone cannot be destroyed by that opponent's card effects. Cards in your pendulum zone cannot be banished. This is not a good counter trap. I actually didn't read the counter trap, and I'm just saying now it is not that good. Because most likely, your opponent is not going to care about your pendulum zones enough, because they're just there on your turn. Because if we look at what they do, they state, oh, when you pendulum summon a Doremichord pendulum monsters, your opponent cannot activate effects or spell monsters or spell or trap cards. So this is pointless. They just become blank scales when they're activated during your opponent's turn. Overall, my review on this archetype, it is the most lackluster one of the 3. Now, I did have hype between all 3 of them, but it looks like Earth's Arctic and Abyss are going to be the ones that come out on top of the 3, and this is just going to fall back as another waifu deck. That is what I'm going to say. But anyways, I have been Bolt Spider. This is my honest review. Like, overall, this deck is mediocre. But anyways, I've been Bolt Spider. See you guys in the next video, and goodbye.